If you clicked on this video, you're probably here because of my title, How to Get a Perfect Villager. Now, I'm going to start with, what is a perfect villager, and why would you want one? I'm in Game Mode 3 trying to be fancy. So, here is our area with all of our villagers. So, I'm going to start with exactly what a perfect villager is, and why you want them. So I'm going to start here with the Unbreaking guys. Each of these guys have Unbreaking 3, the enchantment book, for the lowest possible emerald cost. And I'll get into how to calculate that later. You can see we have them all listed here. Now, why you want a perfect villager is obvious to some, but it might not be readily available. So we don't actually use enchantment tables on our server because of this area alone. Some of these guys are labeled perfect, and I'll explain what's going on in a second, but all of these guys have book trades in their first slot. We have one of every single enchantment. Now, just as a side note, in the description of this video, I will be linking a download to a text file where I have laid out all of the different enchantments and their costs and everything about enchantments. And there's also a link in the description about a video I did on what the odds are of actually getting one of these perfect villagers, and it's 1 in 4,600, rounding up. So, of course, why you would want them is because if you can get the lowest possible trade, meaning the lowest amount of emeralds for every single one of these enchantments, you can perfectly choose the exact tools that you want, which you can see I've done here, except for the sword. We bought this from a villager, which only strengthens my point that if you have all these perfect villagers, you can buy pickaxes and diamond chest plates and swords and axes without ever having to use any of your own diamonds. Now I'm moving to our sorter area where we have a sign for everybody that isn't me, because I know it, but not everybody does. And you can see we do a lot of trading on the server. So if you have a librarian, how do you know if this Feather Falling 3 book isn't the lowest? Well, here it is. The algorithm you can use is the enchantment level, or in this case 3, times 3 plus 2. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11, meaning this cost is 13, so 2 over the best, and we don't want him. Moving on from that, that is the formula for the perfect book trades for librarians. But what about farmers and blackcoats? I'm going to display on an image right here, and probably talk over it, so I'm going to try and not move, where this is a list of all of the different trades in the game, including the perfect trades. I'll go into that more in detail so that you understand what we're talking about. So, for pickaxes, for example, you can see most of these are labeled 12. That is the lowest possible cost. You can see we have a bunch of efficiency 3 pickaxes here, because these are very useful for buying so that we can upgrade them, or if you have the perfect efficiency 3 Unbreaking 3 Soak Touch, so that you can just slap on efficiency 5, and we can easily make double chests upon double chests of these for our convenience. Like this, for example, did not use any diamonds to create. Now, the perfect trade for chest plates, just to focus on certain things, this is by no means limited to this. For example, 16 is the lowest emerald cost, and we like Unbreaking because the highest you can get is Unbreaking 3, Protection 3, and if we're just going to be doing if we're only going to be adding Protection 4 books onto it anyway, it doesn't really make sense to keep them around. Now, the reason I'm telling you all of this is because I don't actually have it on my screen, but I believe the image states that it's an enchantment level. I don't recall the numbers it's capped at, so I'm not going to say anything, but it's on your screen right now so you can see for yourself. The enchantment level, I don't know exactly how it's determined, but this is the best possible Silk Touch pickaxe you can get, and the best possible Fortune pickaxe you can get is Fortune 2 with Unbreaking 3 and Efficiency 3. You can see we actually have 2 of these Efficiency 3 Unbreaking 3 Silk Touch picks, which is extremely, extremely rare. We have been very fortunate. You can see all the different pickaxes we have. In fact, I don't even sort toolsmiths anymore because we have everything we need for the lowest cost. And there are more examples like this that you can get. Like this is I put it in caps because I was very excited. This is the best possible axe you can get, and there are a number of these for every single one. Moving on to farmers, the best possible farmer you can get for trading purposes is labeled in cobblestone slabs here, and that is a 15 for the pumpkin, 15 for the potato, carrot, 8 on the pumpkin, and then 7 on the melons. Of course you want the lowest because that will cost the less during trading and will make your life a lot easier. It doesn't need to be the lowest, but it just, the cheaper it is, the better. So, that isn't all of the villagers, but I'm not going to be covering any white coats like him or any clerics because they aren't entirely relevant to getting emeralds or trading for books, at least the way we play. So I won't be covering them. However, you can see, of course, in the picture that there are uses for them. Just we aren't interested. Alright, so I'm on our old world. This is a world that I have shown on the server before, but the scenery isn't really relevant to the video, so I'll be moving on. What I'm going to cover now is how to get started. So if you don't have any villagers whatsoever, and you don't have a village that you can just raid, then this part is for you. If you have a village with at least 3 more villagers, I'll get to that later, then you're fine. You probably shouldn't take this, but I'll show you anyway. So what we did on our old world, which I think is perfect, is we took a zombie spawner, which has a 5% chance of spawning zombie villagers, and I can't show them unfortunately because, well, they all died. And this is part of the reason we stopped playing here. You can see all of our perfect villagers are dead and gone, just gone. But what we did is we had a system here with, I believe, oh there we go, we had some weakness potions and golden apples, which we just used to cure the villagers, and if we didn't want them, then this dispenser had lava, we would just kill them, and then we would manually move them over. There of course are better ways you could do this, but it worked for us, and then we kept all of our good villagers down here before we moved them for the iron farm or they disappeared. A good starting breeder, and not one I'd recommend forever, is Unarybit's, whatever he calls it, villager breeder. And this is where they just stand in a hole, they jump up and down when this water is dispensed, and then the babies shoot out, get stored here, and they grow up, they become adults. And then I'll show this in game mode 1. You just kill the villager, and then you destroy the minecart, or you save them, or whatever you want to do, and then you just dispense it and get a new one. This is good if you're starting out, but it's not good if you're going to be doing this on an industrial level like we do. See, our breeder produces about 194 villagers an hour, which is insane. This is capped at about 60, because I believe the amount of pairs intercepting with each other's hitboxes kind of makes it an issue, and it caps it, so again, that's why I don't recommend this farm. But you can see we would just move the villagers into this storage technique, which I'll cover in a later segment of this video, or if you want to cut to that, it will be linked in the description. Now that you know how to get started, you will eventually end up with something like this. Now this is mine and Lemon's villager breeder, mostly his. I just kind of decorated it and made a video on it, so full credit to him. This was his concept, based on RaysWorks design, which I'll also link in the description. His doesn't have any hitboxes touching each other. I don't have a term for that, but ours does, because it makes it a lot smaller and they're very compact. So they stand on this fence post, and then because if I hit F3 plus B, they're overlapping just like this. The baby will get shot out every single time, and I'll stay here so hopefully we can see some. Now this is my recommended breeder, obviously because it's kind of ours and it's kind of homely, but it definitely works. When it's running at max speed like this, you can see the food running along the top. It produces about 6 babies per hour per pair, and we have 32 pairs in there. I just ran a half-hour test, multiplied the results by 2, and got 97 villagers per half hour, which came out to 194 villagers an hour, which is, you can see it operating right there. It runs like that all the time. Now the next part of this video is, once you have your breeder, there's a video on this, so I won't cover it too much. You need a food supply. So I'm just going to go right into it. We have 2 crop farms here. One is potatoes, one is carrots. These are Unarybit's designs, linked in the description. This wheat farm will be as well, if you're just curious. This is 8 layers tall for each, and they're about 1,024 items an hour each, which means we get about 16,000 number 192, I believe. That's probably not right. 16,096 items per hour between the 2 of these, and this is what it looks like. Now, this is again specific to our situation, but I'll show it anyway. All the storage is here for the carrots and potatoes, but I made this system here so that it reads when the hopper is full, and then it sends it all to the breeder. The reason this is important is because if you're going to have a breeder like this, you're going to need a lot of food. If you're going to have 64 villagers in here, they need food to continue breeding. I don't know exactly how it works, but I know something like 2 villagers are in a village together, they don't have genders, so when they get fed, they get horny, and then they make babies, and that's how that happens. A little explicit there, but hey, that's what happens. So you need a lot of food because each of these guys have an inventory of 8 stacks of items, which means we had to fill whatever 64 times 8 is, that many items. Yeah, it was a lot of food, but once that warm-up period is done, you get something like this. I'm showing it now because this is running at full speed. The crop farm, obviously it's going off the other end. These guys are picking up not all of it anymore. They're shooting out babies like crazy, and we get a lot of villagers. The next stage for this video is a storage for the villagers. What we have them go into is this tiny hole here, but there's a lot of redstone around it. What is that for? That kind of ties into our sorter. These are kind of the same thing, so I'll put them together as one segment. The sorter for our villagers is a design I created, where they stand on a pressure plate and then they turn off an activator rail. When that activator rail is on, it shoots them into the spot like you saw earlier. If you didn't, I'll demonstrate now. So you kill them when you have the beacon effect, sorry for that, and then they just pop off and replace them. So we don't keep purple coats or white coats, save for these guys, they have the perfect trades. And then if you get a toolsmith, like we don't want, you kill them. And then you can sort the villagers just like this, and it's very, very nice. We don't have to use for fishermen, we only keep farmers. This guy has a 13 flame 1, that's not perfect. For a flame 1, times 5, or times 3 plus 2 would be 5, so we don't keep them. And what all this redstone is, I'll hop back into game mode 3, is this pushes them into the corner every single time one falls through this tripwire. And that's it. It's just a simple little circuit to keep them in the corner so the minecart can pick them up every single time. I'm going into this much detail because I'm making this with the intention that somebody might want to recreate what we've done in order to get themselves lots of emeralds and lots of tools for relatively easy or minimal amounts of effort. And that really just about covers it for storage for the villagers and the sorter. Pretty basic. Now the next stage is, okay, well great, you can produce villagers at a very high rate, you've got your crop farms, your breeder, you know where to store them, you know how to sort them, but what do you do when one is good? Now I'm going to fake it, I'm just going to grab a villager regardless of his use, and I'll show you exactly what we do with them. Now, these chests here have minecarts, and when the minecart goes up here, it grabs the villager and it brings them along this track. This is directional, so for us it goes straight to the left, but sometimes they might go to the right, which is why I have this block here. And then we have a junction. So let me get into the storage for the villagers first. I came up with this design and I'm immensely proud of it. I'll explain exactly what's going on right now. So I have a system here with the rails. Now what we did was a little bit complicated, and I'll show it in a creative world right now. So I'm in a perfect flat world to demonstrate exactly how we got the villagers in there. We first identified where we want the villagers to go, and then we placed normal rails and powered rails, and then we did this. You can see they'll connect otherwise, and this won't work in all directions. In the other direction, I believe it will. See, they'll prioritize this way. And in that case, you're fine. But if you're in our world where the villagers are like this, you need some kind of way or method to put them together. So now the short tutorial is out of the way. We have these rails so that these villagers can't be nudged, they can't go anywhere. These are perfect villagers. We cherish them. I tell people when they first join the server that this area is the fastest way to get banned in case they were to destroy something they shouldn't. We honor these guys, they're important to us. So we have these in place. They're even unpowered rails so that if this slab is broken, they don't move very fast. I won't demonstrate because that's a looting guy and I'm scared of losing them, even though we have 2 that are perfect. 11. So this is the way I opt to store them. There are automatic systems where you can move the villagers through pistons and whatever. That's too complicated and there's already a lot of lag here. I'm recording in 1080 and my computer can't always handle this, and you can see it just kind of stuttered. We've got 200 entities on my screen. Each villager is an entity, with the minecart being an entity. So this is a lot of lag and we try to save on redstone. And this is, in my opinion, the perfect way to store villagers. There's lots of room to walk around, they're perfectly tiled next to each other so that they don't go anywhere. And they're very easy to access. If you drop an item like a slab or anything, or the emeralds you're trading, you can pick them up. It's perfect. We got them all labeled, all marked out. Every single enchantment has a home. And then we have the perfect ones on the other side. Let me get into that more. So we have quartz. This labels the perfect villagers. They have the lowest possible trades and only they get in here. On the left we stored 1 of each. I think at one point Bane of Arthropods had a 64 emerald trade. And because that's all we had, we kept whatever we had. A lot of the guys didn't agree with me on that, but I went with it anyway because we had somewhere to start. Now you can see a lot of these trades at this point are pretty low. You know, 18 for projectile protection, 18, 15, which is 1 above perfect. And yes, this does eat me alive. That protection is 1 off of being perfect. But then I label them perfect if we already have a perfect villager. So then we got the trading villagers. The farmers are very important. They are essential to the operation. Without the emeralds that these guys produce, we wouldn't be able to afford the books that we are getting. Because what's the point of getting these guys' books if you can't buy them? So we use farmers because they're the best source of emeralds that you're going to get. Carrots, potatoes, pumpkins, and melons are so easy to get. You can see that they're just being produced on their own. The pumpkins and melons are coming in on their own. We don't have to do anything. All we got to do is craft the melons, which we have a crafting system for. There's going to be a link to the description below how to build this, but it works well. We didn't have to drag and drop a single one of those. It took minutes, really. And then on the right we have our armorers, which are, or blacksmiths as I call them. They aren't really as organized because we just fit them in wherever they can. A lot of them are like this one. Just protection 3, unbreaking 3 for 17, which isn't even the best. We just slot them in wherever they fit. It's not really important because it doesn't really matter. We keep the pickaxes towards the front because they're easiest for us to access because they're the most heavily used. We go through a lot of these guys, so we have big supplies built up. Now let me get back to this junction. This simply flips between whether or not it's a librarian or if it's a farmer or a blacksmith. And that's it. Whenever I have a perfect villager, let's say it's that librarian, I have this kit below, my stone slabs, my signs, and my rails. Let's say, oh my god, I got the perfect fire resistance guy, or fire protection guy. So I just make the rail fit, turn it away so that it goes right in, and then I select my, obviously a librarian, and then he just goes along the rail. Goes along the back, and straight into the slot. I would then break the rail, put him in, and just like that, you've moved a new villager. He is not something I want, so I'm going to kill him. That was just a demonstration. So this is our method for storing an infinite amount of villagers. This is capped at the amount of trades, and for 1.8 I believe it's 25 long, which is perfect, which means we have 100 villagers of storage. But you could expand this for infinite amount. You could go to the edge of the world if you wanted, but I would like to meet the guy who can store 60 million villagers. Now that about wraps up the main video. So if you want to click away, feel free, but I'm going to get into one last detail, and that's if you want a lot of emeralds, you want a lot right now and as fast as you can get them, what do? Well, our method is farmers, as mentioned earlier. So the perfect trade is 15 carrots, 15 potatoes, 8 emeralds for the pumpkin, and 7 for the melons. Well, how do you get that? Obviously, we use Unarybit's crop farms for potatoes and carrots. We had a sugarcane farm running for the librarians, and then we have this gigantic pumpkin melon farm running on a timer. Every however many items this is, I think it's 2-ish stacks, yeah, a stack and a 48. All these pistons will push down, all the items will get collected, and they'll be shot into this item stream just like this. Perfect timing. Then it goes up the elevator and into storage. I'm not going to get into details on this. There's a video on that in the description below. Now, when you have all these crops, you just put them in chests, you store them, you craft them into the usable blocks, and that's it. You just trade with the villagers. I'm not going to show any technique because it really doesn't matter to me. You fill up your inventory with carrots, potatoes, pumpkins, or melons, and trade away. I guess I will share a technique. I'm going back already. What a lot of the guys on our server do is they'll just do carrots and potatoes first. They'll get their trades all locked up. Let's see if I can find any. Probably not, because I just went through here recently. And then once they're all locked up, they take pumpkins and melons and they trade through them to unlock their trades, and then they get even more emeralds in the process. As you can see, this works very well. And this is only built up after the last time PJ decided to make 2 double chests of perfect efficiency 5 soak touch and breaking pickaxes, but it's a lot. And then with this amount of crops, you know, this fills up as you're trading, so you never run out because it's so fast. And then the rest just gets shot off to the breeder. And then wheat is just for unlocking trades. Not very exciting, but yeah, that's kind of a quick rundown on our villager system, how it works, and how you can do it for yourself. I hope this was interesting, and if it was, share it with a friend. You might want to trade with villagers too. Or share it with someone who you might think will learn something from this, because I think there's a lot of valuable information in here. The biggest one being this formula. I didn't know about this, and this is a big deal, because if you don't know that, then what's the point of starting if you don't know what you're shooting for? So how do you know that efficiency 5 is the lowest trade? This is a terrible example because that's the perfect efficiency 4. But yeah, you get my point. So that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching.